Where's your drink? All right. Well, here we go. Finally get to sit down and somewhat relax. Hope this microphone's working. This is what I got that cordless microphone for, so I can do this stuff again, but even farther away and up in the mountains and show you guys the whole view. But Sarah and the dogs are playing on the other side of the river over there, and we took a break from the boat. It's my birthday today, and we were going to do the live feed fishing this morning, but fishing sucked. We only got a small one, some cod stuff. In between runs again, bad timing. I didn't feel like going out after halibut, so we didn't flick on the live feed. But anyway, we had the dogs cooped up on the boat. We all slept on the boat last night. It's kind of like Noah and his ark. It worked out though. It's comfortable enough. So we got out of Dodge in the dock. Decided to take the dogs here. She wanted to take them to the beach. I'm like, no, if the dogs are going to get wet, I'd rather have them getting wet with fresh water, right? Especially because we're going to sleep on the boat again tonight. And then sure enough, we're walking down this river. And I've brought everybody here before. Right where I am sitting, is where our friends from the native community out here, two of them, have seen the forest people standing right here, exactly where I'm sitting. They've seen him here twice. Two different people seen him here twice. And the one, our girlfriend, I think she might have seen them twice here herself. We're walking along and all of a sudden Ruby exploded, went crazy. There's a bear right here about 5 minutes ago. Of course it took off. Anyway, they can play in the river and have a break. And I'm going to have my break and do this. Well, I'm here. So, here we go. Getting more people, more voices heard. This is a message of love and hope to the people. All right. We all need to come together and put aside our differences, to consider our actions and deeds. We're all brothers and sisters. We are all human beings. We need to respect all groups and let each other follow their path and beliefs without judging them, as they must accept our right to express our own. We must be tolerant and let each other enjoy and reclaim our freedoms. And to see the simple truth, they are trying to bring hate or war to our homes, and we as a people stand up to those that seek to remove our basic human rights to enjoy and breathe free on this fragile blue ball we call home that hangs in the vast vacuum of space. I pray the Creator, however you see Him, opens your heart, eyes, and spirit to find compassion and forgiveness for ourselves and each other. Let go of the fears they foster to control us. May we find our true self's identity, power, and spiritual path that is our connection to the great Creator. Being outdoors connects us to the spiritual, which is part of nature and awakens us. We all have a higher spiritual self that is part of us. We must reconnect with it and with the people to say enough. Take non-compliance action. As Gandhi led the movement for independence, and the truckers and families ran a non-violent movement in Canada, the world saw how they were treated. India's example showed the movement needs to be way larger and engage every single one of us. Those in power must be held accountable. People asking for basic human rights can succeed with love, compassion, and acceptance, and connecting with our spirituality. We all must come together and help each other. Imagine if on both sides of the border, everyone just stayed home and did nothing for half the time the truckers and families did. Then nothing would move or function, and let it all grind to a halt. Our hearts and prayers are a true source of power and connection in this world. Let us all pray en masse for the greater good. Practice love for yourself and each other with faith, compassion, and small acts of kindness for each other. Our connection to our Creator and each other will enlighten and uplift us all to accomplish a better future. May the great Creator bless you all. Thank you, Steve, and the Howdown family. Regards, LG. What a great email and message to all the people. Not a bad word in there. Appreciate that. Good words to hear. And hopefully a lot of people heard them. Now the wind's starting to rip. I don't know if this microphone's hidden from this wind or not. I guess I'm going to find out, right? I guess I'm going to find out. I don't think it's ripping by. It's smoking by my head pretty good. All right, what's this? Did I read this? I don't know. It's fresh out of the pen with the date on it. I might have read it, may not. It'll start anyway, but it doesn't have red to start, but it does now. First responder with 25 years of knowing and knowledge and a warning for all. Didn't I read this? Give me a second. Hello, Steve. Hope all is well in your end. Been watching your channel since the beginning and have learned a lot. But there is so much more I've found in my years of looking into the subject. And always happy to feed the kids. Told my wife after she asked how long, I said till it's over. So I guess we'll be helping feed the kids till the end. Having suffered 2 heart attacks, and I have 4 stents in my heart, I got my job as an EMS dispatcher supervisor. My coworkers think I'm crazy. Same with the family. But I know what I know. Not because I wanted to, but because I've seen it. My first encounter was in the state of Florida in 2000. I saw on an early morning dirt road crossing in June on the Eglin Reservation, 6:30 a.m. I stopped to take a piss. My coworker's in the truck and says, "What the hell is that?" I looked up and saw a very large hair-covered being cross a dirt road in 3 strides. We drove up to where it crossed the road. I jump out and head into the woods after it. It was a dumbass move. I got in the woods, didn't see anything, but the smell was powerful. And all of a sudden, a thought came in my head, what are you going to do if this thing gets up close? I didn't think at the time that it was the Sabe talking in my head, but I got the hell out of there. I was not afraid of anything. I thought I was a tough guy, but in that moment I bailed fast. That started a path I could not get away from. Fast forward to today, and I've been fighting with sending this to you and everyone out there. I made a pact with the forest people not to tell where they are and to protect them if they protect my family. Sounds crazy, I know. I've been gifted feathers, 15 turkey, 2 blue jay. I asked for them, and over a week or so, they just showed up in my yard. My wife and I were on a woods cruise, driving around looking for deer and stuff to take pictures of. And she saw in the rearview mirror a not very big brown forest person jump across a dirt road like a ballerina. I didn't see it. I told her to stop and turn around. Then I heard grunts and noise from the opposite side of the dirt road. We got back to the spot it jumped, and I saw nothing, but heard a loud splash into the beaver pond we were close to. In New Jersey in April 2018, I was all over the news. I was interviewed by Fox News out of Philly. They did a good job, but I was soon made fun of by Free Beer and Hot Wings, a radio show hosts. They made fun of me for 2 weeks. Oh, is this wind getting you guys? This wind is ripping right behind me right now. No, I don't think it is. All right. That's unfortunate. I don't give a rat's ass about being made fun of. You can use my name, David Dover. I think I found the stick structures they make are cuneiform way back in history. It may be just coincidence, but the signs they make can be found in the cuneiform first writing ever made by us humans. The glyph for earth, God, and stars are common to find. My thoughts are this. How do forest people know these glyphs? Unless they were there. Scott Carpenter thinks they are offspring of angels. Maybe. But what if they are made by the gods? The Anunnaki story says they tried to make humans and had a few mistakes. The first ones could not talk, just grunt, and hair covering their bodies, and lived in trees. Having learned from your channel, they think they are the first original people. What if they are? And the DNA says some come from the Middle East. It makes sense. It makes sense the gods, I think he said it makes sense. The gods had a few tries at making us, and the Sabe are just one of the outcomes. I must admit, it's all very odd. I personally think they are relic hominid along with the tiny hobbit people from the island of Indonesia. And the fact the cover-up is in effect shows that just may be the case. Why would the Vatican care about a Bigfoot unless they know we are not alone on this planet? Now I've been full circle in the Sasquatch hunt, from hitting trees like a dumbass, whooping and all that crap, found out this is just stupidity. First off, you warn them you're coming with the knocks. Whooping and screaming, not knowing what you're saying to them, is just pure dumb. Any action, so to say, you get from this will be in my thoughts next to nothing. My wife and I went to the Catskill Mountains in New York. I was still in my dumbass phase, and I cooked some steaks and potatoes on the grill, letting the smoke and smell go up the mountain. And to top it off, I played Sasquatch sounds of volume 1 and 2 and 3 in a bowl on the table from my phone. I thought I saw a brown spot for a short time, but it was nothing. But that night we heard a screeching sound coming down the mountain, and the sound was setting off dogs all down the mountain. I got my phone and shot a video to get the audio, and I got a whoop right outside my window. It came up on the phone too. I kind of freaked out, saying, "That's effing real." My wife laughed at me, and then boom, something rocked the side of the cabin, and I shit a brick. We went silent and didn't say a word, and could hear it walking around, but because there was no blinds in the cabin, all the glass looked like mirrors. They could see in, and I could not see out. And all I had to protect us was, get this, a fire poker and a fire shovel from the fireplace. I was less than happy, but I stayed awake and let my wife sleep. I did not know how she could go to sleep. The door of the cabin had a screen door that kept opening a few times at night. I would look, and nothing there. We would have left and went back to Jersey, but the truck was 50 yards from the front yard, away from the cabin, and we were not going to chance it. And after that day, I stopped looking, stopped whooping, and stopped hitting trees like a dumbass. I'd love to speak to you about going fishing before I die from the next heart attack. But what my thoughts are, be careful what you look for. You just might find it. I have pictures and audio to share with you. So I say, if you want to find these guys, be careful. Don't offend them by screaming and knocking and being a general ass in the woods. But if you must, play Sasquatch sounds, volume 1, 2, and 3. And if one is in your area, you will know. But be warned, they will not be happy and will run you off. Scare you, or worse. Be safe, not a dumbass. I wish you all the best. Talk to you soon. All right, man, I got you. David, I got your number. I'm going to mark this as look into. You're in the look into list here for sure. Sounds interesting. And I'm glad you came around in your journey and you listened and you learned instead of blocking stuff out and not acknowledging. Now, who's next? Gross Lee, Michigan Bigfoot? Pronunciation, gross eel. All right, gross eel, Michigan Bigfoot. This is tell us email. This happened in Gross Eel, Michigan. Early summer. Oh, Michigan. Hold on a minute. Okay, Michigan. Early summer of '86 in my family's back door. Gross Eel is a southeastern suburb of Detroit, an island in the Detroit River at the mouth of Lake Erie. Amherstburg, Ontario is just across the river to the east. Detroit further off to the north. It is an idyllic community consisting of fancy mansions to small one-bedroom cottages. The island at the time was split 50-50 between the woods and homes. The largest critter during my youth was a coyote. Gross Eel now housed a cull deer since some swarm over from a neighboring community around 94. I lived across the street from the Wonder Well, a fireworks and candy store that also had an artesian well that had a sulfur content. The entire neighborhood reeked of rotten eggs. The well dried up a few years later after this incident. Oops, lost my spot. Here we go. I was 15. School was just out for the summer. My parents, younger sister, and dogs were upstairs asleep already. And I was waiting for a friend to come over, late, 10:30 p.m., and hang up by my pool. He had gotten a moped and wanted to show it to me. A moped. It was a nice evening. We didn't have AC, and all the windows and back doors were open. I was in the family room with both the French doors wide open to the large screened-in porch, waiting to hear my buddy's moped approach. And instead, I heard the gate unlatch, squeak open, then close. And I heard the latch clink shut to the pool area next to the screened-in porch. I figured my buddy decided to ride his bicycle instead. I went through the open French doors out onto the screened-in porch to meet him. And as I approached the door to the porch to unlock it, I saw this huge silhouetted figure standing there unmoving against the clear night sky from the bottom of his chest up to the top of his head. It was easily 7 feet tall at the door, facing the door. I stopped for a second when I saw how big this person was, and he looked like an NFL player. The only light source was behind me and mounted on the wall next to the doors for the porch and mostly blocked by one of the open doors. I thought my friend was playing a joke on me, and I laughed at it and I said, "What are you standing on?" As I was reaching to unlock the door, it growled at me in response. Not loud, but it was very deep. It was a leave me alone growl, the kind a dog gives right before it bites you. I had goosebumps everywhere and I felt fear. I stopped reaching for the door latch when it growled. I backed up, turned around, and went in like everything was normal, closing the French doors and locking them as I went. At the same time, realizing this thing would not have any problem going through those screens to get at me if it wanted to, and I was terrified. I sat there in the family room, away from the doors and close enough to flee upstairs and away if anything else should happen. I was waiting for the phone to ring to hear my buddy laughing at the prank he had just pulled. I can't tell you how much I wanted this to have been a prank. I knew that growl couldn't have come from any human I knew. About 30 minutes later, I heard my buddy's moped coming around the bend. I turned on all the outdoor lights and went out in the front door to meet him. And I really didn't think it was him who had played a prank on me, but I asked him anyways if he or some of his friends had just played a joke on me, and he said no. I told him what happened, and he said, "That was strange. Why would a person growl?" He didn't stay very long at all. I think he was creeped out by what I told him. I didn't talk about it again for more than a year. I thought maybe I'd witnessed a demon and avoided to use the porch door at night the rest of the time I lived there. Then a little over a year later, a guy from across the street called and was excited when he told me, "You'll never believe what I just saw in my backyard, a Bigfoot." And that's when it hit me what I might have seen the year before. I told him about my experience. Note, it stood unmoving the whole time of the encounter like a statue. I was 4 feet away from it. There were no red glowing eyes. There was no smell when I saw the figure, but that doesn't mean it didn't have a smell. I lived across the street from the Wonder Well, which reeked of rotten eggs. I pushed this experience back into a corner of my mind where it sat untouched for decades. I recently came across a show linking UFOs and Bigfoot. Something in that show triggered my memory. Mind you, even though this memory was buried in my mind for years, it's still as crystal clear as if it had happened yesterday. I haven't talked about this in 35 years. I never told my family for fear of being laughed at. I'm now obsessed with the subject of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Sabe, and came across your channel because of my disillusionment with the mainstream searching for Sasquatch shows. I figured no one's laughing anymore about UFOs and aliens since the government officially released the UFO videos. It's time to start talking about my encounter. I'm 51 now. Started telling some of my friends and family. When I told my sister, she looked at me like, "Holy shit," and said, "No wonder I always had a creepy feeling at that house when we lived there." And she was right. I'd always felt like we were being watched the whole time we lived there. Wow. So obviously you probably were. In the last couple of months, I've told several people, and not one of them has ridiculed me. I've encountered some nervous laughter, but that's about it. My neighbor and I can't be the only ones who saw this creature. I hope, by you reading this on your channel, that others might come forward with their encounters or knowledge from this area. Please use my name, sincerely, Aaron L. Boyer. And P.S., thanks for reading this and accepting me at the round table. Thanks for getting the facts out there, and keep up the good work. Absolutely appreciate you coming forward big time. I can't ever express how much I'm thankful for all the people that come and speak openly to teach the people that do here, you know. Now, there's a quick note here for me. I can't go stop the camera, so I got to read this real quickly for me, all right? All right, I got you. All right, if I remember to, I will use your title, your location in the title. Hopefully I remember by the time we get back. Appreciate you big time. Keep talking out loud. And you can share this video with people as well, right? Share with them. There you go. How many people have been watched their whole lives, for sure. Probably being watched right now. Here's another one. Mark this as red. Sasquatch, intelligence, and fear. Well, Steve, thank you very much for this platform. Without it, I probably wouldn't be sharing this email with you, because I literally have been laughed to scorn when trying to share this encounter with others. I've been with you from day one, and was with you when it was solely hunt stories. I appreciate you creating a safe place, and I know it's making an impact on so many that have lived through ridicule when trying to share their experiences. So again, thank you. You are very, very welcome, and thank you for coming forward. The following took place in 1996. I was 25 years old, an avid coon hunter, and in the prime of my life. I just bought a brand new Chevy pickup, was working with a major construction company located in Kentucky, and I was enjoying my evening with a cute little gal that I was sweet on. She and I grabbed a bite to eat, and we decided to go to the mountains that surrounded our town and spend some alone time in nature. Hold on, man, I hope that wind's not licking this mic. We arrived to our destination before dark, crossed the first mountain, and went down the valley on the other side. I made several stops while in that valley just so that I could prolong our time together. It seemed magical, especially looking back on it now. We had a great time that day, and decided that we needed to go back to our little honey hole again. So a few days later, when I got a day off work, we did just that. The area that I'm telling you about was smack dab in the Appalachian Mountains and was very secluded. I had actually coon hunted there many times and knew those mountains well. We arrived just before dark. There was a long, narrow, and winding road that led to the tip of the mountain and down the other side and into the valley that I told you about earlier. We didn't cross the mountain that night. We stopped on top of the mountain to enjoy each other's company. After we spent a couple hours there, we got out of my truck and sat on the tailgate right in the road that we traveled in on. Now bear in mind that in those days there was no internet, or at least none that I knew of. The only cell phones were big bag phones, and we didn't always carry a camera. I didn't believe the Sasquatch existed at all. I'd hunted those mountains many times by myself and have never seen evidence of them. But then again, I wasn't mindful that anything like this could possibly exist. But at any rate, we're sitting on my tailgate when things went from awesome night with my girl to absolute horror show. There was a cliff that ran to the left of the road when you would start back down the mountain. And again, we were sitting in the middle of the road. And then we heard a loud scream. She asked me what it was, and I told her that I thought it was a mountain lion, although we're not supposed to have any in this part of the country. We listened to these long, sorrowful screams for a minute, maybe two, when we heard a crash in the road. So I turned the truck around and turned on my headlights to see what had happened. There was a boulder the size of the front end of my truck in the road. So I drove around it, not really thinking too much of it. I figured a rock had come loose from the cliff. There are many old coal mines in that mountain, and it's not uncommon for a rock to fall from those high walls. So we left, not really thinking much of the rock, but spooked a little by the screams we heard. We didn't go far at all, and there was another boulder in the road. And I actually got out and pushed this one about a foot out of the way so that we could get past it in my truck. Now I was starting to get a bad nervous feeling. One rock was kind of common, but two had to be a coincidence. So we traveled on past the second one and went about 1/8 of a mile. There was another boulder on the road. Now I was sick. Not a damn coincidence, but how could it be? But luckily I was able to drive by without stopping and drove about another 1/4 of a mile, and a monster boulder came tumbling down right in front of the truck. But this one rolled across the road with extreme velocity. This one, I believe, was meant to take us out. So I gunned it. I told her to hold on and got the hell out of there. I've never felt so much fear in my life. I had no intentions of stopping until I got home, but when we got back into civilization and hit blacktop, I got really sick, and so did she. She was crying and panicking, and just to be honest with you, so was I. So, when I felt we had escaped whatever fury that hell had unleashed on us, I stopped, got out of my truck, and threw up. Wow, holy shit. She wouldn't get out and was begging me to. Just go, please, let's just go. It's funny what fear will do to you and to your body. It's strange how something like this can change your perspective on life and how quickly you can look at the world with a different point of view. I never did quit hunting. I still hunt. That sweet girl and I never have discussed that night again. In retrospect, what amazed me was that whatever tossed these rocks had to have had human intelligence. Bears don't do this. I've been wanting to share this for a long time, but like I said earlier, every time I did, I was laughed at the point that I said, the hell with it. I'll take it to my grave. I didn't see what tossed those boulders at me, and made that awful sound. I just wrote it off as a bad experience until I started hearing other experiences from the good and brave people that have emailed you their experiences. I've never seen one of these beings, but I do have some photos of some tracks I found last spring while looking for mushrooms. If you're interested in them, I can send them to you. I also have some pictures that I can send from an encounter a friend of mine had. He took some pictures and sent them to me. Let me know if you want to see them, and I'll be diligent in sending them to you. Steve, my name is Brian Gibbons, and you can share this if you feel like doing so. Thanks again for what you're doing. It's huge help. I love hearing it's huge help. Absolutely frickin' love hearing that. Okay, mark this as look in too. If you're still here hanging out, I'll guarantee you there's a shit pile of people screaming at you right now from the screen. Send the pictures! I'll guarantee you. Appreciate you, man. I got you marked down as look into, so patience, but I'll eventually get there. Sarah's over there chucking rocks for the dogs in the river. Still, no bears coming out of the forest. I should walk. I've always wanted to look in the forest. I'm going to walk up in there and take a look in there before I leave. And I can take you guys with me up that hill right there. Looks like big open timber. I got to take a look in there. One more. Los Padre National Forest. Dear Steve, thank you for all you do. This channel really helps my mental health. Good to hear. My name is Tyler, and I am an outdoorsman from California. My favorite thing to do is go out in nature and identify the flora and fauna. I love nature, and what's that? I guess it's the dog barking. Sorry. My favorite thing to do is to go out in nature and identify the flora and fauna. I love nature and feel that being in the forest is medicine for the soul. It is. It's the real world. Story number 1, March 31st, 2014, Los Padre National Forest near Big Sur. The day that changed my life forever. I was deep in the Los Padre National Forest on the coast of California with a friend searching for mushrooms. The fungal life just wasn't popping off like I had hoped. I think it was too early after the rains for the mushrooms to start growing. We decided to hike back 5 miles towards a waterfall to see if it had any flow. This particular waterfall only flows when we get some solid rain, and this hike follows a creek the entire 5 miles to the waterfall and is thick with oak, sycamore, California bay laurel, and tons of poison oak. The creek runs in a canyon with steep forested hills on both sides. We arrived at the waterfall to discover it was nothing but a trickle. We were a little bummed out, but decided to hang out for a couple hours to eat our lunch and look for snakes, turtles, newts, and salamanders. Plus, the view from the top of the water was breathtakingly beautiful. We decided to head back as we only had enough daylight to get back to my truck. But as soon as I put my backpack on and took a couple of steps, my friend grabbed me by the arm and asked me if I'd heard that. I turned around and said, "Heard what?" He told me he heard a grunt up the hill. He had an alarmed look on his face, and I told him, "Stay close to me, and if a bear or mountain lion comes out of the forest, to do exactly as I say." We then continued down the trail, and immediately a rock about the size of a golf ball came flying from our right-hand side through the trees toward us. It hit branches and leaves up high and then landed on the side of the hill and rolled right down next to our feet. I looked at my friend and smiled. I yelled up the hill and said, "F you, stop throwing rocks." That eased my mind a little because I just thought it was a couple of kids messing around. We continued down the trail for about 5 minutes when another rock came flying from the same side, again landing by our feet. This got me thinking, who is keeping up with our pace in the thick poison oak-filled forest without making a noise just to throw rocks at us? A trained military personnel couldn't even accomplish this, but that's what I was beginning to think. Why is this Marine or whoever this is doing this? I peered deep into the trees, scanning for any movement or signs of people for about a minute, and I was even looking for a ghillie suit. And then I noticed the forest was super quiet. You could hear a pin drop. We then continued down the trail, but this time I was watching the forest so I could catch this person in the act. And about every 5 minutes down the trail, a rock would get thrown. This person was still keeping pace with us from inside the trees. And about 30 minutes later and several rocks later, we turned a bend in the trail and I saw the biggest damn footprint smack dab in the middle of the trail. This footprint was not there when we hiked up the trail. I wear size 9 boots and this thing was over 2 times the size of my boots in width and length. I could clearly see all 5 toes. The footprint was aimed up the hill where the rocks were coming from. It came from the creek. For the very first time in my life, I was thinking Sasquatch. My friend didn't talk much, but he said, "That looks like Shaq's footprint." This is where it gets weird, Steve. I reached into my pocket to get my cell phone to take a picture of the footprint next to my boots. Before I could unlock my phone, I heard a stern voice in my head of what sounded like a large man telling me to go. He then said, "Run." I suddenly felt as if I was being watched and felt as if my life was in danger. It was a feeling I have never felt before in the forest. I looked at my friend and said, "We got to get out of here, man." We both speed walked the entire way back, and that feeling of being watched didn't leave until we reached my truck. The first 20 minutes of the drive were in total silence. I then spoke out and I said, "I think that footprint and rock throwing was a Sasquatch." My friend said he didn't want to talk about it. I think he was afraid of the ridicule as he worked with children. I tried bringing it up again another time, and he just wasn't having it, so I left him alone about it, and we never spoke about it again. You should send him this video one day. That night I went home and Googled, "Does Bigfoot throw rocks?" And to my surprise, there were hundreds of stories. I then told my girlfriend of 5 years the story, and she didn't believe me and laughed at me. I then felt like I was going crazy because I had nobody to talk to about it, so I looked online to see if I could find a hotline or something to tell my story. My then, at the time, naive self found a number connected to the douchebags of the BFRO. I dialed the number to tell my story. I was excited and nervous. My heart was pounding out of my chest as the phone rang. And some guy answered, and I began to tell my story. Uh-oh. Another bear here. Yeah, she's got it. She's a good dog for bears. No biggie. Dog, all good. Sorry. Some guy answered and I began to tell the story. He cut me off at the beginning of my story and asked me where the encounter took place, and I replied, "Los Padre National Forest." He then said thanks and hung up on me. He clearly didn't care about me, only the location. Holy shit, no shit. I began spending all my time reading about and searching for proof of Sasquatch. I was in the woods 500% more than I used to be. I had more rock throw encounters, heard wood knocks, saw more footprints, and saw the tree structures they make, etc. And this took over my life. I became obsessed. I began drinking a lot. I lost my job, and my girlfriend of 5 years ended up leaving me. I came to the realization that my obsession ruined my life. I lost the girl of my dreams because I stopped being a good man to her, and I decided to start backpacking as much as possible as it helped get my mind off of her. I backpacked all over the Sierras, Yosemite, and Los Padre National Forest, and now fast forward 5 years. Story number 2. October 1st, 2019, Los Padre National Forest near Santa Barbara. Worst night of my life. I went on a solo backpacking trip in the forest. I mapped out a loop trail, which I didn't really know was possible. I didn't know this area very well, and I don't think the trail had been maintained for a dozen years. My guess is that it would probably be about 50 miles, but I really didn't know. I was planning on doing it in 3 days. but I had enough food for 5. About 7 miles into my hike, I found this beautiful campsite area with a waterfall and natural swimming hole. I didn't make it as far as I would have liked in my first day, but I couldn't pass up swimming in this beautiful creek in this slot canyon. I set up my hammock, went for a swim, ate some dinner, and turned in early. I figured if I hit the hay early, I'd get up before sunrise and get back on pace. I woke up about an hour later to that dreadful feeling of being watched. It was absolutely horrible. There was only a sliver of light left from the sunset, so I decided I would pitch a tent, put the rain tarp on, and go back to sleep. I set up the tent faster than I've ever set up a tent before. Oops, I looked up and lost my spot. I felt as if I was being watched the entire time. I crawled in, tried to force myself back to sleep. I guess the tent gave me a false sense of security. And out of sight, out of mind, I fell back to sleep. And several hours later, and about 2 in the morning, I was woken to the whistling coming from up the creek. I sat up in my tent listening. I didn't hear any birds, crickets, or anything. I don't even think I remember hearing the creek or waterfall. At about 5 minutes passed, and as soon as I laid my head down, I heard the same whistle again from about 200 yards up the creek. I sat right back up with my eyes as big as saucers, just listening. I knew this wasn't a bird or any wildlife. I sat perfectly still in my tent and listened. I then heard another whistle from 200 yards down the creek this time. The original whistle up creek quickly responded to the whistle down creek. Then straight up the cliff side in the canyon above me, I heard a third whistle respond. 3 whistlers. About every minute or so, they would take turns whistling. 1 minute it would be from up creek, next minute from down creek. Then following minute up above me on the cliff. They took turns in perfect order, never going out of turn. I listened to this for about half an hour before I realized that the whistlers were closing in on my tent. The whistles were getting louder and closer. First it was 200 yards, then 150, 100 to 50 yards, until all 3 whistles were right outside my tent. They were whistling down at me. I was shaking in my sleeping bag, terrified. Steve, what followed next was the worst experience I've ever experienced in my 31 years of life. The ground began to shake like an earthquake, and I felt electric shocks going through my body, and it was very painful. I think I let out an involuntary yell from the pain. Tears were rolling down my face because I was so terrified. I mustered up the strength and yelled from the top of my lungs, "Leave me alone!" Then silence. The electric shock stopped. The ground stopped shaking. I tried to listen as best I could for any noise while shaking with fear in my sleeping bag. And then I heard a stern voice in my head telling me to leave, and he sounded angry. It was the same mind speak that I heard years earlier. They then turned and started to walk away from me. I could feel the ground shaking as they left. They then entered the thick of the forest and broke trees and branches until they were out of range. I stayed awake in my tent all night until first light, and then I went back the way I came to my truck. I would not be completing the loop trail. I was going home. I ended up not leaving my bedroom for 3 months other than to get food. No way. I was terrified to even go outside my home. Friends and family started to worry about me. Finally, I told one of my friends what happened, and he showed me your channel. I even got a therapist who specializes in PTSD, and I told him everything. It probably saved my life, as I was probably as close to suicide as one would get. My friend who showed me your channel has got me back out in the woods and even got me to go overnight camping on several occasions, but I highly doubt I'll ever go solo backpacking in the woods for the rest of my life. I have more stories I want to tell, but I feel this one's long enough. Thanks for all that you do. I doubt I'm the only life you've saved. Forever grateful, Tyler. Holy shit. Man, I'm sorry that happened to you, my man. I'm sorry you had that reaction. That loss of life, but at least you're back out there, right? Thank God. That would scare the living shit out of anybody. What a shitty thing to do to somebody for no reason. But I guess when you go looking intently too, right? Sometimes you get your ass handed to you. I'm done. I'm just going to walk up and look in that forest real quick with the camera. All right, you guys, I'm going to take you in that forest. I've been wanting to go in there for years. Just a quick peek. It looks open. All right, here we go. Let's go see if there's a trail here. Just see how open that timber is in there. There's quite the trail right here. Easy, psycho. Bubs. This is where that bear went up too, I think. Oh, wow. Oh, crazy. Huh. This is where that girl Belinda, she saw those Sasquatches right there in the river here, eh?
Here?
Yeah. Twice, I think. And then there's another young guy seeing him here too. It's like a park in here, huh? All right, we better get going. Headed back to the dock for birthday elk steaks and baked potatoes. Hope everybody's gonna have a great weekend this weekend. Here we go.